All right, and we are live. The Casuals MMA podcast talking UFC 253. UFC brings it back to Yaz Island, better known as Fight Island. We're excited to talk about this one. It's been a little bit since we've watched pay-per-view. I feel like the UFC spanned the pay-per-views out. They've done a lot of free events because they've had to catch up a lot with their ESPN contract to make sure that they've provided the right amount of the free content to be on ESPN Plus. So now we are back. We've got a pay-per-view. We got a big one ahead of us. A lot of fresh faces. I'm excited. I know you guys are excited. So welcome to the show. As usual, we have our regular co-host, Sean. How you doing today, brother?
Good, man. Excited to talk some fights.
Yes, sir. It's been a little bit. I think it's been a couple weeks since you've been on too, right?
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah, so good. It's nice to have you back. And then, of course, we got the always eccentric Danny boy.
Eccentric.
You bring the energy. That's what you're here to do. You bring the energy.
An argument with Sean tonight for sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Honestly, it's not a good show if you guys don't get into at least one argument. I'm like, whatever. But yeah, UFC 253, we got a little bit to catch up on before we jump into that, a little bit of news and notes. But first, if you're watching us live, you probably see that I've got some big chains on representing because you know what? It's rivalry week. Let me get them in there. Boom. Rivalry week for UM. We got to talk a little bit of college football because if there's another passion I have next to MMA, it's going to be my Miami Hurricanes. So, Sean, I know you're as big a fan as I am. You ready to go, baby?
Oh, of course, we're going to smack them.
I'm always nervous for the rivalry games just because both teams always show up. You know, we get a little anxious, and it's going to be interesting to see if they play with emotions or they play with their head like they have the last 2 weeks. Because on paper, the Hurricanes look like they should roll over FSU. But we know how it is when you actually step on the field against your rival, your heated rival, especially since, let's be frank, neither of our teams have been good for quite a while now. They seem to play harder. This is almost like a bowl game in some ways. So, but they're looking good. So either way, you'll be watching me represent with the gold chains. Sorry if I offend, not sorry. But before we get into UFC 253, let's talk a little bit of news and notes. Man, we didn't get a catch up from last week. Guys, let's talk a little bit about Woodley, man. What's going on with Woodley? He just got creamed.
It's the same thing that he's been looking like for a while now, and then somebody finally put him away.
Yeah, I know.
This is how he's looked for a while.
Yeah, and brutally too. He got put away by Covington because he got that broken rib. That's going to take a while to heal up, and hopefully he'll be sitting on the sideline contemplating the rest of his career because he's looked like a dog with no fight in him whatsoever. His last few fights, it's one of those things where he's the most interesting UFC champ to me because in some ways he's just never really showed out too much. You know, like his title defenses have always fell flat of expectations. He's this guy that's always been super highly athletic, great hands, great speed, obviously fantastic wrestling, but he just never seems to be able to put it together very well. So I don't know. He's just a guy. He's disappointing. He's 38 now, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much done. And then on the flip side, you got Colby Covington. I'm sure he's happy walking away with that after he got his I think he got his jaw broken, or was it his orbital when he fought Usman?
It was his jaw.
Yeah, it was his jaw. I was going to say, Colby's come up on the positive end of all of his rivalry fights, though, like between RDA and, pissing everybody off. Guys, I have to ask you, I usually try to leave politics out of this, out of our conversation. I usually just want to come in, have fun, talk sports. Especially with the current climate, it seems like you can't escape it. But I have to ask, Colby Covington's comments, do you find them racist? Do they bother you that, if the UFC doesn't step up?
But my question is here on that is, what did he really say that was racist? I mean, I know he called out LeBron James and called him a bitch, but what else did he actually say that really threw people off?
He was calling them terrorists, and he was talking about Usman's tribe because
sending smoke signals.
Yeah, sending smoke signals. So he's like sending kind of blatantly, racist comments to him.
No, I mean that's kind of ignorant for him to speak that way.
But his whole persona started with a racist comment, calling people Brazilians trash.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to bring that up too, because it's not like, even if you're like, well, I don't know if you could say this is racist. If you go think about it, he called the Brazilians dirty. He said it's a dirty country. And I mean, he set off a lot of the Brazilians. That's why he's been labeled as the racist welterweight dude since all that happened. So, I mean, what's your thoughts about it? Are you cool with the UFC?
I know Dana came out and said that they don't censor anybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, at what point do you draw the line?
I mean, for me, growing up as a kid and watching sports, I mean, it's not necessarily a real sport; it's a fake sport. But like the World Wrestling Federation (WWE) always had that. Like it had its divided fake athletes, like somebody from Israel, somebody from the Congo, and people would talk legitimate shit. Like what the hell was that guy's name? Sergeant Slaughter. Like the shit that guy used to say. I feel like in a certain instance, like UFC is trying to mirror and mimic that. Like you have to have villains, you have to have people that are, coming up above this. And if you think about it, the UFC has done a really great job in not only having champions from other countries, but really publicizing these people from these other countries. So I feel like they're trying to add some kind of an act to it to kind of make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit more enticing. Because if you think about it, after every one of these fights that Kobe's been in, after all the shit that he's talked about, he's like, yo, man, it was no bad blood anyway. He's like, it's just leading up to the fight. And after that, I'm over it.
Yeah. But does that make it worse that he's literally using it as just like a platform to sell him?
I don't think it makes
like
it
a
any
marketing
better.
tool.
It doesn't make it any better, in my opinion. I don't know if it's necessarily worse.
Yeah. Well, that's part of part of it. I just want to get your thoughts on it. Like I said, I don't want to linger on it too long.
If you keep letting him do these kind of things, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna take matters into their own hands.
Yeah.
When you're talking about real fighters, it's gotten close with him many times. It's gonna get bad.
Yeah. Hopefully levels out those antics. I don't like to see it, but I do see there's a lot of support from all sides of people with Dana White's comments saying we don't censor anybody. A lot of people give him support, like, hey, you know what? Even if I don't believe in what he's saying, at least the UFC is being open about that. So either way, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts. And of course, I got to ask, guys, what were your thoughts on the Nico Price and Donald Cerrone fight coming to a draw?
I think it was the right call, being that he lost that point. But I think it was a great fight. I was just surprised that Nico didn't put him away, because in the first round, I thought he should have put him away. But as he went through the rounds, like you can see Donald Cerrone, like he just wasn't really into the fight. I was shocked that Nico couldn't put him away that fight.
Yeah, so, Sean, I'm sorry. Your thoughts? I think you were going to say something, and then we lost you.
Yeah, well, pretty much just that. I thought he was going to put him away early, but credit to Cowboy, he stayed tough through that fight. But without the eye pokes, Nico wins.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that was most of the sentiment too with fans too. Where does Cerrone go from here?
I know Dana's going to talk to him about retirement, so
you like to see that, because he's had some brutal fights, in the last year that have not gone his way. So you like to see Cowboy hang it up and call it after a while. He's had a great career. I mean, he's had to have made his money. I know it's always fighters, athletes actually in general are the last ones to know when they should retire. So it's always tough, but he's taken a few tough beatings now. So I'd like to see him call it quits. But all right.
Over to like Bellator or something. I'm indifferent about him retiring because, like Sean said, I thought he was going to get put away early. But I mean, he stood his ground. He went through the fight. He had some really good shots throughout the entire fight. Like, he doesn't look like he's done. I just don't think that he should be in the UFC with all these up and comers. I think he should move over to Bellator, with some of the older age fighters, and maybe put on some of those big fights with some older competitors or aren't just as up to skill as some people are in the UFC.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's probably a good assessment too. Like if he wants to do that, go over to Bellator, smaller division or smaller promotion rather, and fight some people like that. I agree with you. I think that actually would probably be a good fit for him. But he seems like somebody, he's got his love and everything over in the UFC. So I can see him easily retiring, because if you remember, he was in the WEC before this, so he's kind of been a company man for a while, for most of his career. So I don't know. I don't know if I see him going over to Bellator. Maybe he'll retire. Maybe he'll pull one of those where he retires and he's gone for like 2 years or something, and then gets the itch, comes back and fights over in Bellator. That seems to be what Bellator is good for the older fighters. So moving on, there's a few fight announcements. I like this one. Steven Struve versus Tai Tuivasa was added to UFC 254. That card's loaded. That's the Khabib. Oh my God, I said Khabib fight card. So Tai Tuivasa actually just got released not too long ago. So I was surprised to see him back, but they're always in desperate need of some decent heavyweights, and I think him fighting Stefan Struve is a good matchup. Stefan Struve, he's one of those guys that he's a good heavyweight. But he fluctuates in his career so much, man. Like, he'll have a fantastic fight, be a top contender. If you remember, he beat Stipe. He beat Stipe a long time ago. But then, he loses to Roy Nelson and stuff like that. But that's been Steven Struve's whole career. So that's a good one right there. But I like that matchup. And then the rising star that we were talking about, Khamzat Chimaev, is going to fight for a fourth time here soon. He's going to headline. Think about it. This guy just joined the UFC, a month, 2 months ago or something like that. He had 2 fights in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. He just had another fight and won that one. He won all of them in the first round, I'm pretty sure, isn't it, right? I know he finished them all. I think they were all in the first round. So this guy's coming on the freaking scene, man. And now he's already headlining a free UFC event.
Did he get Stephen Thompson? I didn't see that.
No, so I was going to say they were originally talking about Damian Maia for him, which I don't know if I like that matchup for Damian Maia. Damian Maia just needs a retirement fight. That's it. He doesn't need to be fighting some young, hungry lion like this. So I was kind of glad to see that fell through. But then they were, I think it was Chimaev said that he wanted to fight Stephen Thompson, but they haven't made that happen yet. So we'll see if that's a go. But they're trying to give him a ranked opponent.
I think Stephen Thompson had come in with some side chatter saying, hey, at this point, I think it'd be a great fight. Oh, God, it's on the tip of my tongue before. I forget.
He wants Leon, I think.
Yeah, Leon Edwards to knock him off his high horse and stop the hype train. And then all of a sudden it's Dana's thinking about Stephen Thompson against Chimaev. Do you know who he's going to be fighting on that card, or has it not been announced?
Or are you talking about for the free one?
Yeah.
No, that's what I was saying. They haven't got him a fighter yet. They were talking about Stephen Thompson, but they kind of pulled back on that. I think they're waiting to see if that's actually going to happen, but they're going to get him a ranked opponent either way. I mean, and at welterweight, I mean, you have a ton of great guys that you can throw at him in that top 15. So I'd be very interested to see who they end up, getting. All these guys are desperate for money, man. They want to get paid. They're sitting at home. They don't, that's why we're seeing the matchups happen. We're seeing quick turnaround time, short camps, because people are trying to get back into cage, fight, and make that money that they lost with this whole schedule thrown off this year. So it'll be interesting to see who he goes with. So, all right, boys, you ready to move on to the big event?
Let's go.
UFC 253. Going back to Yas Island, we're going to talk a little bit of DraftKings. We're going to go through the main card. We haven't done lately. We really haven't focused on the prelims. And especially with these, I think they're a little bit hard too, just because there's so many newcomers to the UFC on here. So it's really hard to tell what they're going to show out, which again, I always promote this. You got to watch the fresh faces because you never know who the new superstar is going to be. Especially, I think that's one of the appeals for them going to Yas Island, Fight Island. They can pull all the international fighters that they want to showcase and put them on this card. So, there's some good fights. I know Diego Sanchez has what's supposed to be his final fight against Jake Matthews. That's probably not going to turn out too well for him. Shane Young is a decent fighter. He's fighting some young gun, 16-2, coming in, and Klein. This one was interesting that I saw William Knight. This guy looks like a freaking monster at light heavyweight. William Knight, he's 8-1 versus Aleska Kamur, who's 6-0. I think he's had one fight in the UFC from what I've seen in the past. So there are a few good fights on here, just like on paper from what I've seen. Again, there's not too much video from these guys. They fight overseas in these other promotions. So you'd really have to go into the dark web to find their previous fights. But that's why we tune in to watch the prelims, man. So I'm excited to see how some of those fighters turn out. I mean, Chimaev started on the Fight Island. You know what I mean? Going back to referencing him. So you never know when a new breakout star is going to happen. But let's talk about the main card. So, guys, if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, we dropped the link in there for StreamYard. You can feel free to join us if you want to drop some predictions and talk to us live. We're pretty laid back and chill. Don't think we're going to make fun of you unless you say something dumb. But you can join us if you want to. Just follow the link and we'll put you on. But either way, guys, let's start with the featherweight fight that kicks off the main card. I'm going to get to the DraftKings picks a little bit later, I think, before we do the co-main event. So let's kick it off with the matchup between Hakeem Dawodu versus Tuko Gov. I always screw up saying his name. So what are you guys' thoughts on this one?
Dan?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was pulling up the betting odds. I'm excited for it. As you mentioned, and I think it's a great point, to know that a lot of these newcomers coming on are being put on these big shows. They have to show up and show out. So I find them to be – I think it's going to be a great fight. Hakeem's coming off of, out of his 5 fights in the UFC, he's coming off of 4 wins. So I'm excited to see what he's going to put on. I think he's, up and coming, and I think he's got a lot to prove here, being on such a big card and definitely, out in Yaz Island. As far as his opponent, Tukov, he's coming off a win, but before that he had a draw, and then before that he lost to Renato Moicano. So we'll see. I think his win that he had, he had a good finish to it against Kevin Aguilera. He had a KO finish in the first round. So, I think they're both rolling in hot. But I think I got my money on Hakeem. I think he's going to probably pull it off and send him home.
Yeah.
And Hakeem just hasn't quite lived up to his hype, coming out. He had that big kickboxing, or I think it was Muay Thai maybe, background. And
yep,
he's been able to win fights, but he hasn't been very exciting doing it. So it would be interesting to see what happens in this fight, see if he can get on a roll here, start generating some excitement.
I mean, he's really only lost 1 fight in his career, but to your point, like, he hasn't come out and been as exciting. I think everybody was expecting him to just come knock every single person out because he's big for 145. He's 5'8". For 145 pounds, and he looks strong, he looks thick, he looks built. But I mean, he's what's his record, like 11-1 or something like that. I mean, he's really only lost 1 where he got caught in a guillotine choke, but he's on a 4-fight win streak right now. This is really going to put him into the top, I don't know, top 15 at least, I would think, because I don't think he's currently ranked right now. I think that this is going to be a good matchup to see where both guys are at. To your point, like, Hakeem came in hot. He came in with a lot of hype. So it's really going to be up to him to really show out and see what he can do. I like this matchup. I always like these matchups when you got a good all-round guy versus a guy that you just, you know what he is. He's can be relatively one-dimensional in Hakeem with his kickboxing. So I'm excited to see this fight. I got my money on Hakeem too. Sean, did you say who you picked for this one?
Yeah, I got Hakeem.
Yeah, he's looked mean, man. He's lived up to his moniker. Hakeem Mean. He's looked mean in his last few fights, even though he hasn't really, finished every single one like we were talking about. Like the UFC was expecting him to just come in and knock everybody out. He's looked mean. He throws hard. He throws hard punches, man. I would not want to get hit by that kid. So I got my money on him this weekend too. So Dan, do you have the odds?
Pulling them up. Give me a second.
Yeah, I know. I was bad, and I forgot to put our ticker up on our live video feed, which I usually have. So
yeah,
shame on me. Kick me off the show. I'm done. I'm walking off. No.
They got Hakeem at a -105 and Tukanov, or however you pronounce it, at a -125.
Wait, say the odds again.
-105 for Hakeem, and then they have Tukov at a -125.
Oh wow, those are like razor thin odds. Yeah, that's a pick 'em right there. That's a tough one to pick. So Hakeem's actually the underdog for this fight. Actually, I already knew that from my DraftKings disregard. I just didn't realize it was that close. But that's crazy, man. Holy crap. So
and I'm betting these off of OddsShark.
What's that?
Betting odds are on OddsShark.
Yeah, usually those are going to be pretty close. So all right, any other closing thoughts before we move on to the next fight?
No, sir.
Nope. All right, cool. So next up, we got Ketlin Vieira versus Sijara Eubanks. Sean, let's start with you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Ketlin comes back because she was another one that had a lot of hype coming behind her, and she was starting to live up to it. And then ran in Irene Aldana, who stone cold knocked her out, which was very surprising because Ketlin's a big girl. She's been physically imposing on all of her opponents, so it'll be interesting to see how she bounces back. I think she should beat Sijara. I mean, Sijara's lost to Beth Correa, so
we are not fans of Beth Correa.
No.
Yeah.
On this show.
But I will say, to echo what Sean's saying, I mean, she's coming in with a lot of hype. She's coming in with, a lot to prove. But I mean, she just had a fight on the 12th of this month. I mean, she went three full 5-minute rounds. So, I mean, is she really going to be ready to go through another 5-minute round battle? I don't know. I mean, from watching embedded, she looks fucking ready to go. She looks mean. She looks cut. She had a full camp. So she's ready in that sense. But coming back to back on fights, I'm a little hesitant to sit there and say that she's going to win, but who knows? We'll see.
All right, strap in because I got my thoughts for this one. Ketlin is going to finish her. She's going to finish. She's mean, man. She's so much taller too. She's I think she's got like a 4-inch height difference. I think she's like 5'8", and Sijara's short. She's like 5'3", 5'4", or something. Ketlin's going to crush her, especially when I was watching the way that these two fight. I think the only thing that's going to, work against Ketlin in this fight is going to be whether or not she's in her own head because she got knocked out. Aldana's a fantastic fighter. You know what I mean? Like she's probably one of the best in that division. So there's nothing to be upset about that, but we know how people can get into their own headspace when, they get knocked out. It's like, what kind of fighter are you going to see come back in their next fight? So it's going to be interesting, but to me, Sijara doesn't offer anything that she hasn't seen already. She's already fought some high-level competition. Ketlin has. Both the girls have, actually. So I don't think that she's going to offer anything different. Like the way that she throws her punches, and that's, again, referencing Sijara. She likes to throw a lot of short shots, and she moves straight forward. I don't think she's going to be able to reach Ketlin as much as she needs to. Ketlin throws long punches. She's really good at that, and she's very imposing. She stands right in front of you. She'll take a hit, and she comes forward. Boom. She keeps those shoulders forward, man. She's pretty intimidating. So I got her going all the way. In this fight.
Yeah, and she's had a good amount of time off to just get her mind right, get healed up. Even coming off that KO loss back in December 2019 on the Usman Covington card. So she's had a lot of time to rest, and I feel like that's going to be at her advantage alongside her height and reach advantage over Eubanks, and plus the fact that Eubanks just fought a week ago. She's probably hyped and she's probably ready versus Ketlin, who's probably a little bit nervous after having such a long time off. But like you said, I feel like the height and reach may be to her advantage. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited.
And the other thing I forgot to say too is I like her wrestling base. Like her takedown defense is really good. Like because Eubanks is going to try and do that on her. She's going to try and fire in there, press her up against the cage, pull her down a little bit. From what I've seen too, Ketlin is good off her back. She'll throw submissions up. She'll punch you. So this one should be regardless of where this fight goes, this should be a fun one. But I definitely have Ketlin winning this one for sure. So Sean, did you give your thoughts on who would win?
Ketlin.
Oh, okay, cool. And Danny boy, can you bring up the odds for this fight?
Yeah. So the odds on this one. They got Ketlin at a -200 against Eubanks at a +160, which pretty much lines up with exactly what you said there.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Eubanks is a baller, man. She's ferocious. Both these girls are ferocious fighters. So I do like Sijara Eubanks. She comes forward. I mean, she wants to hit you. She wants to hurt you. She wants to put you out. I just don't think that she has the advantage in this fight whatsoever. Like this is all, to me, from what I've seen in their fights, this should be all Ketlin. I'll be excited. I don't think that the stats necessarily, reflect that in a way, especially when you consider like Sijara on paper. Again, her strikes landed per minute is doubled that of Ketlin's, but there's also another fight on this card, which is the headliner, where that's the same case. Costa actually doubles the striking output, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, so that'll be a fun fight to watch. I'm actually looking forward to that. I like the good women's matchup. So that's going to be the second fight on the main card. Go ahead, Dan.
Since the Joanna Jędrzejczyk Weili Zhang fight. I feel like the women have been showing up on the next level versus the guys, like really trying to put on a show, really trying to get those performance of the nights. You even saw with the Dern fight last week, she's like, I hope I put on performance of the night or fight of the night. So they're really showing up. So, yeah, I'm excited for the girls' fights.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I think the thing, and I talked about this before, is I feel like where women's MMA is a little bit like where like the early days of men's UFC was, where like there's usually a pretty big difference in the level of competition facing each other. They seem to be like coming off of that a little bit. So you get these exciting fights. And the other thing too, is I think ever since they've come into the UFC, they've had something to prove, right? Because originally Dana White was like, there is no way I'm going to have a woman fight in the UFC. And then here's Ronda Rousey making a crap load of noise, a crap load of money. And he had dollar signs in his eyes. And that's when he brought her over, So, thank goodness that happened. And we get fantastic fights like this one coming up. So any other thoughts before we move on to the next fight?
No,
nope.
I'm excited for this next one, though.
Yeah, boy, me too. I like this fight. So Kai Kara France is fighting Brandon Royval. Brandon's coming over from LFA, which is another division that he was a champion. I think he won the belt like in a matter of, I don't know, it was like a minute or something. He won the belt, and then he moved over to the UFC. He had a good first fight against a very tough and game Elliott. So I'm excited to see this fight. I think these boys match up very well against each other. Kai Kara France is a great striker. He has a nice right hand. He puts people on their butts with that right hand. So I'm excited, but I'll flip it over to you guys first.
Yeah, so I'm going with Kai Kara France just because I love him. Because I watched him on he was on the Ultimate Fighter where the winner got to fight DJ. Actually, the one that Tim Elliott won. And he seems like a super chill dude. He's like that guy that seems super nice out of the cage, but you lock him in there and he's a fucking dog. And he trains with Adesanya, so he's coming out of that city kickboxing.
Dude, how about that fucking camp real quick?
Yeah,
how about that freaking camp? Is ridiculous.
Two champs. Hooker might get a title shot in the future. Yep. Kai's been on a run. He's won 9 of his last 10. So, I mean, his only loss is to Brandon Moreno, who's done very well for himself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is Volkanovski fight out of that gym too?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant when I said the 2 champs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Guys, all right. Calm down with the fighting. Oh, my God. No.
Dan, shut up.
There you go. That's what I wanted to see. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't interrupt me. How dare you?
That?
I said, don't interrupt me, Dan. How dare you?
No, I think we'll probably get into an argument coming up on the next 2 fights.
Yeah.
About either one.
We're not that passionate about these fights.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I can tell, like, Dan's kind of like sizing up in the background. Like, he's kind of going back and out the video and then back into the video, and he's just like prepping himself. He's like, just get to the co-main event already. Let's get to it. Let's call this fight, Ryan. No, but I think that this is going to be a fun fight. Kai Kara France, I think on paper probably should win this fight just because of his athleticism, the camp that he comes out of. I think that he's the hotter fighter that they want, but Brandon Royval just fights with passion, man. He was in tears after his last fight that he won, or his first fight against Tim Elliott, because he didn't have to go to work. Like, he got paid to fight, and he wants to keep doing that. So he can fight from anywhere. He can fight on the ground, standing up. He obviously wants to submit you. And then he presents another problem by being a southpaw, man. It's like any other sport, man. When a righty's fighting a southpaw or hitting against a southpaw in baseball, whatever it is, it's always that much tougher. And especially when he has a 5-inch height difference on you. So I'm actually going for Brandon on this one.
I saw Kai knock out a dude that was 5'10".
Yeah.
On the Ultimate Fighter. So
fair enough. That is a fair point. Dan, we got your thoughts on this one?
I mean, looking at the stats, I think I'm probably going to have to lean towards Brandon as well. I mean, he's got a 64%, submission rate. He's had 3 fights without a TKOs out of his 11. And like you said, you always got to keep your eye out for southpaws. It's hard to prepare for them. So I think I'm going to go with Brandon on this one. I think I did watch, Kai's highlight reel. He's definitely explosive. I feel like he's going to bring a lot. He's exciting. He's super fucking pumped. He's calm. He's fighting on the card right underneath one of the best fucking middleweights ever in the sport. So, I feel like he's probably had the right camp. I think he's going to come in, but being a southpaw, having that height and that reach again, and him just being a submission expert, which I don't see Kai having too much of that jiu-jitsu underneath his belt. I'm probably going to say Brandon. I mean, I think Sean, Sean, you said Kai, right? So I guess me and you are betting against the odds on this one because they actually have this at a big difference, and it's Kai at minus 240 against Brandon Royval at a plus 190. Yeah. So if we put our money where our mouth is, we may make some coin on this one, Ryan.
Yeah, we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But the only caveat I'd say to and I know Dan just left, he's gone, but he's off screen. But the only caveat I'd say to the stats that you just dropped, Dan, is the fact that you got to remember that's for Brandon's only one fight against Tim Elliott, whereas Kai's had a few fights in the UFC. So the difference in the stats, it's hard to make that comparison unless both fighters have had a comparable number of fights in the UFC, because they're not tracking your stats before you get in to the promotion. So just some I was thinking about. But hey, don't get me wrong, Kai's great. I'm interested to see how he goes. I really like Brandon. So maybe I'm picking a little bit out of emotion here, but all right, let's move on. We're going in before we go into the co-main event. Actually, let's talk a little DraftKings real quick. So I was going through a little bit. Oh, Dan, you did. Yeah, you just gave us the odds for that one. That was pretty big odds. So
I can respect them again. Kai's at a minus 240, and Brandon's coming in at a plus 190.
Yeah, that's really not too bad a split for the odds. So, anyways, all right, cool. DraftKings, let's go. Let's talk a little bit of DraftKings. Now, the one caveat I will say about before I give you my DraftKings lineup is I prefer not to do it until after the fighters weigh in. Reason being, the last I think the last pay-per-view that I did, one guy ended up missing weight by like 7 pounds. Gilbert Burns, or not Gilbert, it was his brother, Herbert Burns, missed weight by 7 pounds. He looked like the better athlete, but he looked terrible in that. You could tell he was sluggish. So, and then the other fight, I think that dropped on the day of who were the guy, Kutabala, and who was he matched up against? Remember Kutalaba? That was like one of the fights that he tested positive for COVID, but they didn't do it like the day of.
The guy's name.
Yeah, I forget. But anyways, my point being is that if you're going to do DraftKings, wait until after weigh-ins. Make sure these guys make weight easy. Make sure they look good. You even see the Vegas odds flip oftentimes after both these guys weigh in because Vegas wants to see what these guys look like. Are they wobbling up to the stand to face off against each other or whatever it is? So that's my only caveat. Take what I say with a grain of salt until you watch the main fight. And the other thing too that I will say, so DraftKings, if you're not familiar with it, you pick a lineup. So with MMA, you pick a oh, thank you, Dan. It was Anklov who Kutalapa was supposed to fight. So you're supposed to pick 6 fighters. You get a main salary for your team. You pick 6 fighters. You pretty much get to pick like 2, maybe 3 favorites, and then you have to pick some underdogs. That's pretty much how they break down the salary for that. And then, they have a ton of different games. So most of the games that I'm playing for are going to be like the 50-50s and double ups where you just come in the top half and you win money. So just keep that in mind too with the card that I give you. So what I have on here, I have Ketlin Vieira. She's the favorite. Again, I think that she's going to impose her will. Actually, I'll talk about that in a minute. The second one that I have was for one of my underdog picks, and I just picked him, was Royval. So Brandon Royval, I picked him. All right. I picked Reyes as one of my favorites. And again, my co-main and main events may not reflect what my actual pick is, but I'll tell you why I picked these guys. So Reyes, for one of my favorites, I picked, so going back to the prelims, I picked the guy William Knight. I've watched one of his fights on YouTube. He looks big and mean. He's an underdog in that fight against Kimura. Kimura's only fought in the UFC once before. He's 6-0. William Knight's 8-1. So really not too much to go off these guys, but I literally just went by striking advantage, size, and stuff like that for that fight. I just liked what I saw from him. And then my other underdog pick was Dawodu. who we already talked about and kicked off the main card about. And then here's the thing is my other favorite is literally a coin toss between Adesanya and Costa. Reason I say that is because oftentimes when you pick these fighters, the other thing that's important with DraftKings is picking guys that are going to score a lot of points. All right. I've had fighters win and they still get outpointed by guys that have lost because they've had long, crazy fights where you rack up a ton of points by throwing a ton of strikes, takedowns, submission attempts, the whole 9 yards. So you got it. So most of these picks too, that's the other thing. Most of my picks too are guys that have high striking volume. For me, Adesanya and Costa is kind of a toss up. It's really who you want to have the faith to go in with as your main favorite. But with that list from what I did today on DraftKings, that leaves you with a little bit of money left over. So you can easily pick either one, Adesanya or Costa. Again, Costa, we're going to get into his stats later. He has insane striking volume, like UFC historic levels of striking. So as far as the stats go, that's going to make you a ton of points on DraftKings. So something to consider, just making you think about it. And there we go. So questions, comments, concerns about DraftKings, boys? Or Sean, I know you play it often. Nothing else?
No.
All right, cool. And Sean, I saw that was this just announced, Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler?
It was announced a few hours ago. I just saw.
Oh, nice. That should be fun. Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler. Dang, that's gonna be a bloodbath, man.
Yeah, Perry's been asking for that one for a while. So
yeah, Robbie Lawler should be able to take the life out of him. But again, Lawler's another guy where it seems like the fight's been dragged out of him. So we'll see what happens there. But no other comments. Everybody's cool. Cool, calm, collect.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get to it. I'm like you said, I've been lunging into the screen all night. I'm ready to talk about these next two fights.
Ooh, all right, then, Dan, you know what? Let's change it up a little bit. You seem amped up. You seem ready. Bring us into this co-main event.
All right, man. This is a fucking big one. I'm waiting for this for a while, either which one to get the title shot. John was up next, but then again, we had our controversial feelings about Dominic Reyes getting another shot, being that some people felt like he won that fight. I said no when the conversation happened because I believe in the fact that championship rounds win the fight. So John Jones moved up. We got the title opened up. So that's just going to create two ends of just hungry fighters just trying to meet at the middle and squaring off. So I'm fucking super psyched for this fight between Jan Blachowicz, the Poland beast, against Dominic Reyes, which a lot of Long Islanders that where I grew up from don't know that he played football over at Stony Brook. So I'm excited for this fight. I got my money on Dominic Reyes in this one, just being a lot more athletic. They're both got knockout power, but I just feel like he moves a little bit better. He's a little bit faster. And I feel like him coming off that fight with John Jones, I think he learned a lot about himself, and I think he took that back to his camp, and I think he's going to come in and I think he's going to finish this fight for sure.
Yeah. Sean, we'll save you for last. I like to change the order so I don't always put the pressure on you guys and then just get a step on you guys afterwards. But I think that to your point, like this one's a fun matchup. I can't wait because Jan reminds me a lot of like Stipe on his rise, where he's like this quiet guy. But he puts on good performances. He knocks out people and surprises you and wins fights and surprises you. And I could see him being a champ because he's a strong fighter, but I think Dom Reyes is just going to be too much, man. He's too athletic. He's too strong. He has too many weapons in the stand-up, and he's a little bit bigger. Because to me, I told you, I thought Dom won that one. He won that one against Jones. The referees even had training with Big Mike McCarthy, UFC legend, and he told them this is why Dom won that fight to the judges, man. He said that to the judges, but I don't think Dom takes that for granted anymore. He comes in fast, ferocious. I think he's gonna win this fight. Whether it's gonna be finished is another thing. Jan's a tough dude, so we'll have to see. But Sean, over to you. What are your thoughts?
I'm interested to see how Dom kind of reacts. Because there's been a lot of that noise, especially from guys like John McCarthy, that he did win that fight. So does he kind of come into this thinking, well, I'm the man, this is my belt anyway? Does he kind of come in a little too cocky, a little too confident? Because Jan's a good fighter, but is he really a championship caliber fighter? like most guys in this division. I mean, this division has been very uninteresting since John's basically cleaned DC and Gus out. So I know you guys are excited for it. I'm not really overly that excited for it. I think it'll be a good fight, but
I think the part that I'm most excited about is not necessarily this fight. I'm just excited to see Dominic Reyes be King, the new light heavyweight champion, because I think he's probably going to put on a really good show, and I think he's going to reinvigorate the light heavyweight division. I think a lot more people.
Yeah, he could. And not that I don't think he's a bad fighter. I think he's a good fighter, but he just doesn't really do it for me. I don't know if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
I don't really care for him.
He has a high. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think as a co-main event, it's a good spot for him. For me personally, I would pay main event money to watch him fight.
No,
just my opinion. I mean, sometimes I don't even really know what it is, to be honest. But there's just something about him that it just doesn't pull me in.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, I think he's going to be a good champ. You know, with Anthony Rumble Johnson coming in, I think that'd be a great next fight. I don't know if they want to give him an immediate title shot, but you know, I think it's exciting just to see what's to come after it. I was overseeing John Jones wiping up the floor with all these guys. I'm excited to see him go to heavyweight.
Maybe that's the other thing is like we know John's still around. He never lost his belt, so it's like, are you really the real champ?
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure Dom wants that fight back, though. I'm sure.
I didn't. No, I wouldn't argue that.
Yeah, and especially the way he left it too. You know, it's not like he convincingly though. That's the other thing is it's not like he got mopped up like Anthony Smith did, and then you're like, all right, well, you know, we know who the real champ is. Again, a lot of people thought that Dom won that last fight against Jones, but you know, I don't blame anybody for not wanting to see that fight again. You know, because I'm personally not a big fan on instant rematches and stuff like that. So. But I think to your guys' point, we've talked about this a lot. When you have such a dominant guy as you're talking about a GOAT here with John Jones, right? Like he was literally murdering everybody. It makes the division look bad. Middleweight looked bad for a long time because Anderson Silva was killing everybody. He looked like he could do whatever the hell he wanted in the ring. But now look at middleweight. It's exciting. It's exciting again since he got knocked out and Weidman became. I mean, belts flipped hands. It felt like every year. Adesanya might be the next guy that can potentially dominate the division depending on how he beats Costa this weekend. But, you know, I think it does add a lot more interest and intrigue because do you not want to see Dom Reyes fight Thiago Silva next? Like if he wins that belt, do you not want to see Thiago come back in and have that shot after he himself blew out both of his knees and still had a close matchup with John?
Oh, I'll be excited to see that fight for sure.
Yeah. So,
like I said, I think this is going to reinvigorate the light heavyweight division. I'm not ecstatic about each fighter. I just think that I think it's a good fight. I think they both have a lot to prove. And whenever the belt's on the line, both of them are just going to come in like bulls, just rushing in. So I'm excited just for that. And it's
See, Jan's a guy like he excites me. I like watching him fight. He's a very good counter. He's a very good counter striker. People don't talk about that a lot, but if you watch his fight with Luke Rockhold, which made me a huge fan of Jan, the second you broke his jaw, I was like, well, Jan, I'm going to be your fan for the rest of my life because screw Luke Rockhold.
He did the same thing with Corey Anderson. Wasn't it a counter strike that he knocked him out with, or that was just a clean right?
I don't remember. I mean, I remember that he knocked him out. I don't remember the exact punch, but I just remember the Luke Rockhold one because I watched that about 50 times every day since then. But no, I'm just kidding. Jan excites me, man. He's excited. Like if he goes to the ground, like when he fought, what's his face, Nikita Krylov, he looked exciting in that fight, man. He got on top. He's hitting a lot. He transitions a lot. He looks good. I like the way that he fights. He makes me excited. Dom Reyes has a ton of great tools. He has a nasty left kick. He throws a ton of great combinations. So to me, I'm excited for this fight. Both these guys get me excited. I'm ready to watch this one, but I still have Dom winning this one. I think he's just the more athletic guy. He has a ton of tools in his arsenal in the stand-up. I think if Jan wants to win this one, he's going to have to make this a dirty boxing fight. Like he's going to have to press Dom up against the cage and really just find those holes, break him down, wear him down. And then that was the thing with Dom. We saw in the last fight that he got worn out after the third round. You know what I mean? That's why Jan was able to pick up the win. Dom won the first three, and Jones won the last two.
Significant differences in the 4th and the 5th round, the championship rounds, as a fan of boxing, and he just out touched him like by a long shot in those 2 rounds, and I felt like that's why he won the fight no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. So
and I'm sure he worked on his gas tank.
Yeah. Dan, give us the odds for this one. What's the Vegas odds?
So they got Dominic Reyes coming in at a -300 against Jan at a +230 on Shark odds.
Okay, that's not too bad. I don't think we really touched on some of the. Well, real quick, we'll touch on some of the stats. So in the striking, Dom Reyes pretty much owns the striking. He almost lands 5 strikes per minute, which is huge. That's a ton of volume. To Jan's, which is very reasonable, is 3.5 strikes per minute. So that's still very high striking volume. Both these guys very accurate. They're almost at 50%. Strikes absorbed actually a little high. It's on the 3 end. Jan's actually is a little bit lower at 2.7. So that's actually pretty good. Defense is at 48% for Dom and 54% for Jan. Grappling is going to be where there's a big difference. Jan obviously has the more experience in this realm. He has takedown average is over 1 per 15 minutes. Takedown accuracy is 52%, which is pretty dang high. His defense is only at 65%, whereas Dom's is at 82%. So,
question to the two of you.
Yeah.
How do you think Dominic Reyes handles Jan if he wants to like throw him over against the cage, take him to the ground? How do you think Dominic handles that? I have never really seen Dominic in that type of position where he's up against the cage or on the ground. I mean, even John Jones couldn't get him down. So, I feel like John may use that to his advantage, being that he is the slower puncher. I feel like he's probably going to have a little bit more stamina than Dominic, as we saw in that last fight. How do you think he's going to handle that? I feel like John probably has that in his back pocket.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't really seen it.
Yeah, same here.
You don't know until you see it.
Yeah, Jan looks like the bigger dude, right? Like if you put them both up next to each other, Jan clearly looks like the stronger dude. He's way more cut. But sometimes when you have a longer guy, like because Dom Reyes is a couple inches taller than him, only by 2, but sometimes when you have like a long limb guy, they can just get that leverage a little bit better. I think that's going to be like the tail of the tape, really. I mean, if Jan's not feeling the stand up, he's going to try and push him up against the cage and just turn this into a dirty fight. But can he keep him there? To your point, I don't know. That's going to be very interesting to see if he can kind of hold on to him and press him up against the cage and not get turned around by Dom. If Dom's getting underhooks and being able to move him, damn.
Yeah, then I guess the night's over after that point. But I feel like Jan's going to overpower him regardless of the height and the length.
Yeah.
If he ends up taking that route. Like if he plays it smart, he walks into this fight smart, which I've seen him do in a couple of his previous fights, to get himself at least, to the end of the round or to the next round, or to save himself from some heavy hits that he's taken. He's mauled some people by doing that. And I feel like he's in his back pocket. And I don't know if Dominic Reyes actually prepared for that. Watching him embedded, he talked a lot about working on his boxing and his gas tank, but not so much about, that ground game, his defense. I mean, I know he looked great against Jones, but, Jan's on another level, I feel, from watching his previous fights and how he, uses the cage and takes people down.
Yeah. Well, John's a guy that'll fight you at your game. He's out to prove something every time he gets into the cage, whereas Jan's a smart fighter. He's going to do what he needs to do. He's going to go with the game plan. So Jones is, if he has to, he'll push you up against the cage. I think he was feeling the heat that he was behind in that fight. That's why he was trying some of that stuff. And the other thing too, is that sets up your striking too. If you flash a little bit of that, flash the takedown, show that a little bit, get that guy thinking and expecting that. And then you can change levels, and that kind of sets up your striking. You know what I mean? So, because by no means to me is Jan a better wrestler than John Jones, but will Jan use it more meaningfully? Like, is that part of his game plan? I think absolutely it is.
I think it is for sure.
Yeah. So, but and I was going to say the other thing too is it's always hard to see how these guys are going to match up. Again, one guy can absolutely look like the stronger dude. He looks like the bigger, stronger dude, but sometimes these long, lanky guys just have that grappling edge, where they don't necessarily look as strong, but they are. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, I have Dom. I think everybody, all 3 of us have Dom winning this one, right?
Yeah.
Yep. By good volume. So Cool, man. Can you give us the Vegas odds one more time before we go on to the main event?
Yeah, so they got Reyes coming in at a -300 versus Jan at a +230, so not a huge gap.
Yeah. But that's pretty good though. That's pretty good for Jan, because I would have thought Dom would have been the big dog in that fight, but or in that betting odds. But anyways, all right, guys, let's get on to the exciting stuff. Sean looks like he's falling asleep over there. I know he's waiting to go watch the Dolphins game. So let's get into the heated discussion I'm sure that we're going to have about Costa versus Adesanya. Sean, you know what? I need to see some liveliness from you. Why don't you introduce us, bring us into this fight?
You know, this is a fight that's been brewing for a while now. They've been going back and forth, and it's a stylistic matchup in the sense that you have the kind of Matador versus the Bull. You know, you have the guy who uses a lot of movement. He's not going to wow you with power shots. He's going to use angles. He's going to cut him off. He's going to circle the cage. And then Paulo just sees red, and he's just going to come forward, swing with everything he has. He might, or he's not might, he's going to hit you in the nuts. It's probably going to happen. So just be ready for that, Adesanya. I hope you wore your steel cup.
Oh man, you got me on that one. Yeah, you called that during the Romero fight, because you were like, "I watch. He's going to get into trouble. Romero's going to hit him hard once or twice." And then I think he ended up 2 cup shots in that one.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, at least 2 cup shots at critical moments when Romero had him hurt. So I'm going to say I think we talked about this before too. I thought Romero won that fight, but before I get. You know what? I'll get into it first, also because I haven't gone first, so I like to change the order up. This one is a little tough to call because my gut says Israel Adesanya is going to win. He doesn't have that one punch knockout power. He sets everything up, which I personally like a lot. I know Adesanya was like, well, I knocked out Robert Whittaker. Well, technically you set that up. You had a few nice punches. You had Robert Whittaker.
Well, Robert Whittaker just kept jumping right into him.
Yeah. And then you knocked him out. I mean, you know, that's a little different. He's the guy that can wear and tear you, where Paulo Costa comes straight in, man. This is a good matchup for Adesanya. He's a good counter puncher. The one thing that makes me mad when I watch him, he showboats too much with the hands down. You know, people always said, "Oh, Anderson Silva does that all the time." No, Adesanya does that, and he gets hit a lot doing that. That's my only concern with Adesanya. He should be the faster fighter. He should be the more mobile fighter. He should be the better and more precise striker, which the stats don't say, but we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But to me, Adesanya should be able to dictate where this fight goes by utilizing the full size of the cage, and he should be able to pick apart Costa in 5 rounds. That's my thoughts. But now let's go, Dan, over to you.
So for me, I feel like Costa throws a lot more volume. I can't say is more technical than Calvin Gastelum, but has a lot more power. And Adesanya does get clipped. And I just don't think he has the jaw or the body to take the kind of heat that Costa is going to be bringing in that fucking fight. So I'm a little bit hesitant to say that this is a great matchup for Adesanya because I don't think he can handle that power.
Yeah. Oh, let me correct that, actually. Thank you for bringing that up. When I said it was a great matchup, I meant in reference to the last fight he had with Romero. That was extremely boring because they were both counter strikers. That's what you get all the freaking time when you have 2 counter strikers. Both guys are hesitant to kick off. So that's why I thought this was going to be a good matchup for him, because Paulo Costa is coming across that cage at you. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but you brought it.
And I think another downfall is that, Costa's going to come so fast and so forward. No matter what Israel throws at him, I don't feel like he's going to be able to hurt him unless it's like, the 4th or 5th round. If they make it that far, that it's just, enough of those shots have added up that Costa's just going to be tired and he's going to catch him. He's going to fall. But I just don't see it playing that way.
Does Costa make it 5 rounds, though? Does he have that energy? He's a big dude. He has a lot of muscle.
I've seen him have it. I mean, he did in the Yoel fight. I think all his other fights were 3 rounds. I think he's going to push through, man. I just think he's so much more – not so much more, but I think he's just extremely determined, and I just feel like he's going to overpower Adesanya. I don't think Adesanya has ever faced an adversary like he has in this fight. I don't think he's ready for that power, exactly like Paulo Costa has been saying. I don't think he's ready for it.
Damn, Sean.
So, Ryan, I felt your sentiments for the longest time about this fight, but this past week, just thinking about it really in depth, Thinking about just what we've seen from them, I'm going with Costa inside 2 rounds.
Whoa!
Think about it, Ryan. The guy
Well, just because
from fucking 35. Like that guy has some serious fucking determination to win this fucking belt. I mean, he's walking around at 235 and now he's down to 185. I think he's just gonna rip right through fucking Israel Adesanya.
Because for reasons they even pointed out, he keeps his hands down. He's been hit by smaller, shorter fighters. Costa's more explosive. He's faster than Gastelum. And we've seen that he can put on that pace for 2 to 3 rounds. He did it with Romero. He might take a couple breaks here and there, but he can put that pace on, and he cuts off the octagon. And I just don't see Adesanya having enough power to slow him down or to make him respect Adesanya, to back off a little bit here and there. Because we even saw Yoel hit him with some bombs, and he did drop him a couple times, but he never really looked dazed, even when he got dropped. So I think he's just selling out. I think he's just coming forward. The one thing about him too is he doesn't just rip to the head. He'll rip those hooks to the body. And Adesanya's not a thick dude, and Costa he could just shut the lights out with one shot.
Yeah.
Body or head.
Just look at the Uriah Hall fight, man. He was just ripping hooks.
Yeah. And I just don't see him, like you said, man. He just doesn't have enough meat on them bones. But
even if he did, he just seems a little too cocky in his defense. I think his defense is overrated.
Yeah.
I don't think his movement's that great. I think offensively his movement's good, but defensively his movement's not that good. It's not Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva could stand in front of anybody and use his head movement, time it, and counter. Adesanya just, if he does make you miss, he's not really there for that counter. He kind of just uses a flashy move and he kind of moves away.
Yeah, but you know what he's good at? No, go ahead, Dan. Say that again.
No, I was saying that's why he's called the last style bender. He just, he's sticking moves. There's nothing really coming from it.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, though, is the difference in the movement of Adesanya and Silva is different, because Silva, to your point, he takes those small, like more boxing angles where he'll stand in front of you, plants his feet, but he can have that nice head movement, that nice shoulder movement to get out of the way and come right back at you. Izzy moves out at angles, so he like pivots out of those zones, but he puts himself at an advantage because when he moves out of those zones, now he has a dominant angle on you from your
when he does use that movement, he puts his chin up. He usually comes back like this, and he's gonna get caught.
Yeah, and that's my only caveat with Adesanya, man. And I yell at the TV sometimes when I watch him, because I'm like, bro, get your freaking hands up. You've had 83 kickboxing matches before you even got into MMA. Like, keep your damn hands up, dude. But I still go with Izzy. It's sweet to see that you guys are both going Paulo Costa on this one. I bet you guys thought you guys were going to fight about that, didn't you?
No, I thought the last one I don't know, maybe that we would have had some discussion. Just because I knew I wasn't going to give his boy Dom Reyes the best review, I guess.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that you said that, but hey, that's cool, man. Hey, let's real quick. Let's go over some of these stats. These stats are insane between ththese two guys. All right, you got 19-0 Adesanya, and again, that's not even including his 83 kickboxing matches he had, pro kickboxing matches he had before he got into MMA. He's 19-0, all right, in MMA. He has 14 of those are knockouts. 14, all right. Then you got Paulo Costa, who is 13-0 with 11 knockouts. Damn. All right, that's insane. So you're talking about a finish rate of 74% for Israel Adesanya, 93% for Paulo Costa. You have the longest active winning streak for the middleweight division in Adesanya, and then you have the highest striking rate in UFC history on the side of Paulo Costa at almost 8.5 punches per minute. That's insane. That volume is insane.
And
that's
every single line is meant to kill.
And to couple that, you're like, all right, well, whatever. He's throwing all those punches. His accuracy is almost 60%. I've always talked about, like, elite strikers are in that 50% range. He's at 57% accuracy. That is freaking insane. That's the third highest striking accuracy rate in UFC middleweight history. Damn. And then on the side of Adesanya, third most knockdowns in UFC middleweight history with 10, and 6 post-fight bonuses, and 3 post-fight bonuses for Paulo Costa. Insane numbers, but guys, that's not even my favorite number. Do you want to know what my favorite stat is?
Stop fucking teasing me with it. Let's go.
No, come on. Tell me, what do you think it is? I just gave you some striking numbers. But guess what? It's actually the grappling. Why? Takedown average per 15 minutes and takedown accuracy. Actually, no, takedown accuracy went out, but takedown average per 15 minutes, 0. You know why that's special? Because that means these boys are going to stand up and ball out. That's why I love that stat. That's my favorite stat coupled with the striking, is because these guys are not going to bother taking each other down. These guys are going to fight. They're going to stand in front of each other and they're going to ball out.
Yeah, and like with the Jan and Dominic fight, I don't see it being like a backup plan for any one of them. I feel like they're going to go out on their shield. Like if they're getting beat, they're going to get knocked out, and that's it. I don't feel like they're going to go to the wrestling or the grappling to try and save their ass or to get a breath. I feel like it's just going to be fucking straight out war between the two of them.
Wait, you're talking about the main or the co-main?
Main event. The
main. Yeah. I thought you said the co-main for a second. So I was like, "What? You crazy?" Yeah, no, that's my favorite stat because I'm like, these guys aren't even going to bother with a damn takedown. They have like no takedown attempts. Neither of these guys want to go to the floor. All right, these guys want to stand in front of each other. They're heated. We talked about that. They're heated rivals. They've been talking crap to each other. They both want to walk out of this cage saying that they knocked the other out. So this fight's got to get you pumped up. You know what I mean? Like this fight's got to get you amped up, ready to go. To me, this is definitely a co-headliner worthy of that pay-per-view cost, even though it's a lot sometimes. But I'm excited for this one, man. I'm excited for this one. I'm still going to go with Adesanya. I think he has the more dominant angles that he takes in the fight. I think he picks his shots better. So again, even though Costa has like the higher average of punches thrown per minute, I just think that Adesanya just throws smarter. You know what I mean? His defense, again, is suspect. To me, that's really been my biggest concern with him. Is just the fact that is his defense. He keeps his hands down too low. So that's pretty much it. Any other closing thoughts, boys?
Yes, betting odds on this one. You got Adesanya at a -185 and Costa at a +150. So this one's pretty close as well. But no, I'm rooting for Izzy. Don't get me wrong. I'm rooting for him. It's just, coming as being a boxing fan, whenever a boxer or a fighter goes for the body and works that, Canelo, Cotto, it has that effect of where like you'll be able to fight your fight, but they're not going to be able to last all those rounds because that body work just completely fades you out, and people don't pay attention. Look at Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic, just for UFC reference. But as a boxing fan, like you just know once somebody's working the body, it's only a matter of time before you go. I just feel like just in this fight, I just feel like there's a lot against Izzy in this fight with Costa coming in the way he is.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, that's about it. That wraps it up for us. I think that was a nice bow on it. So thank you, Dan, for those closing thoughts. I'm excited to watch this fight. We'll see who's right next week when we reconnect, usually on our Wednesday show for our shorter segment, because the next pay-per-view we have is not until like late October. I think that's when September. Yeah, October. I think that's the Khabib fight, Khabib and Gaethje fight. That's not until like the end of the month. That's the week before Halloween. So we have a little bit of time between. So we'll catch up, do some of our shorter segment shows before then, and we'll talk trash about who had the right picks on here. So thank you everybody for joining. I hope everybody has a good time. I know Sean's got to get out of here so he can go watch the Dolphin game. Go Canes this weekend against FSU.
I'm gonna go enjoy it. He's just watching it.
Yeah, that's
okay.
All right.
Sorry, if I had to, Sean. I'm not a Dolphins fan. I'm a Niners fan. So,
ooh, surprise, whatever.
Can't say anything. Niners are better.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, again for joining the Casuals MMA podcast. Thank you to all of our listeners. And again, don't feel bad or feel afraid to ever join us live if you want to. We always leave the link to join us live on StreamYard in the comments section. So if you're always listening to our pre-recording, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We usually post it up on there when we're going to go live and all that stuff. So that way you can join us. Otherwise, everybody have a fantastic night. Have a fantastic weekend. It's great to have all of our sports back, football, baseball, all at the same time, and along with MMA. So have fun this weekend. I know I've got plenty to watch, and we'll catch you on the next show. Thanks, everybody.